fitness guy, a guy who cares. That's the most important. And I want to share information with you that I believe can help you. Now, if you're catching us live on YouTube or you want to share some of this information with other people, please share. But if you're on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe so that you are notified whenever I bring up something new. And today, I'm not going to keep you long. I just want to share some information with you that literally could really help you now and for the rest of your life. And that is having clarity on what is meant by not all weight loss is good weight loss. Not all weight loss is good weight loss. So I'm gonna give you an example. So years ago, I did a paper where I looked into um, adult survivors of the Holocaust. And when I looked into it, the women who survived Holocaust, they battle with their weight for the rest of their life. Um, and I have a pretty good theory on why. And that is what I want to share with you. Because when you have someone who doesn't eat much, right? So they starve these people. Same as you have someone who's anorexic, right? They just want to be lean, they want to just lose the weight. When you first start to lose the weight or you don't eat, what happens is your body is maximizing the fat burning process. So you're burning some fat, but that doesn't last too long because the body wants to have fat. And if it feels like it's going to run out of those reserves, then it will totally shift, right? It will switch and it will look for other fuel. So your body becomes catabolic and it starts feeding on itself. There's a Greek term that they use to define this. It's called sarcopenia. And sarcopenia means vanishing flesh. Now, let's say that you're that person and you want to get on the scale because the scale is how most weight loss programs measure if the weight loss program is working. Now, what motivated me to share this was I ran into someone I hadn't seen in a while, and I saw her. She had lost a significant amount of weight. I'm gonna say about 65 pounds, and she didn't look healthy. Right? You ever see people who get bariatric surgery and they lose a lot of weight? Same as someone who goes through chemo, they lose a lot of weight. But when you look at them, they don't. They just there's something off. The elasticity with their skin is off. They don't look fit. They don't look healthy. But according to the scale, they feel like they've done good because they've lost weight. Well, this is what happens. Instead of dropping the fat weight, which is what would be good weight loss, you start eating your own muscle. And if you took like an anorexic or even the people in the concentration camp, when they died, most of them died because their heart stopped. The heart is a muscle. And if you're not eating in a way and moving and exercising in a way that you're getting rid of fat, you will find yourself losing weight. And the weight will come primarily from water. Okay, remember this: water, bone, and we've heard of osteoporosis, and muscle. Now, if you're 65, 60, 55 plus, you don't want to lose bone and you don't want to lose muscle. But if you're not monitoring that, right? So as coaches, diet-free life coaches, we are monitoring that. That is very, very important. And we know the importance of the quality of what you eat. And we know how to work with someone who is insulin resistant. So let me give you an example. I'm going to show you a graph here. I want you to look at this. Okay. So this is a graph where you have someone who's insulin sensitive. This is a positive thing, right? So when you eat fat, and in this study, they just ate pure fat, and you can see the bump of the insulin. So that's the response. And then you eat protein, you get more of a response. And if you eat carbs, you get more of a response. And if you eat further from nature, like crackers, cupcake, cake, you get a really huge response. Now, if you're insulin sensitive, you can get away with this for a while, right? Because if you look around the third hour, everything comes back down to normal. But that is not the same when it comes to someone who's insulin resistant. Look at that. You get the bump, and 6+ hours later, insulin is still floating around. So why is this important? It's important because when insulin is circulating in your body, you cannot release fat. The fat cell will hold. You cannot release fat. So this lady that I saw, she told me that she lost, 65 pounds. And again, she didn't look healthy. And I believe a large majority of her weight loss is coming from bone, water, and muscle. Now, in her mind, she believes she's winning, but she's not. She's losing, because when you lose muscle, you lose bone, you worsen your overall health. You age faster. You slow how much energy you burn throughout the day. And that's why most of those people will gain the weight back. You'll meet them, and that's why sometimes we just sit back and watch, sit back and watch, sit back and watch. And a year after they had lost all this weight, it all comes back. And the next time they want to lose weight, it's that much more difficult because they're burning fewer calories because they've lost muscle. Their health has been compromised. They're in a much worse situation. So that's why I tell people, if you're going to lose weight, do it the right way. Do it the right way. Now, there's probably a lot of other right ways, but I know that what we do is evidence-based and clinically proven. So it's not just my word for it. And anytime I share, even what I just shared with you, that's not my personal opinion. I'm stating facts. Everything that I'm sharing, I can substantiate, meaning there are studies and research that supports what I'm saying. So it's not just me. I'm just sharing information that we know to be true. And through my work since 1995 of helping people, I've observed with clients and experienced it. And many of you who catch me online, you've seen me doing it. You've seen me. So whether it was back in the 90s, the early 2000s, yesterday, I'm just sharing information that can help people. So do it the right way. And so what are some things that you could do? Well, number one, they have like these impedance machines. Get yourself a good body fat, scale. Now, they're not 100% accurate, but if you're using it the same time, the same way, on same conditions, it'll be pretty accurate on you being able to see if the weight that you're losing is primarily fat weight, or are you robbing your body of its health by losing muscle, by losing bone, and of course, walking around celebrating because of the water weight that you lost. The goal is to release fat. So this lady, and to get to my point, who I was talking to, it's fascinating. I said, hey, so what is your program like? She says, well, I eat 6 times a day. I was like, okay. And she's obviously insulin resistant. I mean, I can see it. Now, I can't confirm it 100%, but she looked like everything I know about her, she was insulin resistant. So keep that in mind, because when you're eating that often, that means insulin is elevated. And if insulin is elevated, even though you may be losing weight on the scale, it ain't fat. We know that. See, if you go back with me in 2005 to 2007, I created my first infomercial product. It was called Food Lovers Fat Loss. And the Diet Free Life methodology is the bulk of what that program was. Well, from 2005 to 2007, it was done, and it didn't come out until 2009. A lot of things changed, but the company I was partnered with wouldn't let me make these edits or these changes. And we talked about insulin, we talked about a few things, but it was a canned program where I had people eating like 3 meals, and most people were snacking like twice. Well, I started doing these seminars in 2010, traveling around the country. And as I was traveling around the country, I would have some people come up to me, mostly women, and they would say, Robert, I'm doing your program. My girlfriend's lost 30 pounds, but it's not working for me. And I would walk away thinking that they're lying, they're not following the program. And then I started meeting more people like that. And then in the end of 2010, I looked into some studies that were framed around losing weight while insulin sensitive or insulin resistant. And it changed everything. At that point, I knew that everyone had a threshold, a carb threshold, meaning we're all unique, we're all different. And so I came up with this thing called carb stepping. And then that eventually morphed itself over the next 10 years or so to this thing called the carb threshold report, where you learn what your carb threshold score is. And knowing that score, which now we can do it instantly. You don't have to carb step. We can know in 5 minutes. Once we have the data, we just know. Then we know what level of insulin resistance you have, if you have it. And then we know exactly how to get you to eat so that we're optimizing your insulin response so that insulin levels are low, your energy is high, you're not craving certain foods, you slow down the aging process, and you're able to release body fat and not lose muscle, bone, and water. You know, people don't know so much about it. I mean, I'm still a baby in my own, but I'm looking at it, working on it on a daily basis, right? And we now know clearly that when insulin levels are elevated, it speeds up the aging process. When insulin levels are elevated, you will feel lethargic, you will feel tired. It's not a positive thing. And when insulin levels are elevated, you burn fewer calories through your energy expenditure throughout the day. When insulin levels are elevated, so many things get worse, to include you not being able to release fat. So that woman that I saw was doing it wrong, but in her mind, she's doing it right because she's measuring her weight loss success just by the scale. She has no idea how much harm she is causing to her body. It is so sad. It is sad, 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 because this is a prime example of when my people, your people, our people don't do well because of a lack of knowledge. And I'm paraphrasing, right? Because the Bible says our people, well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I'm having one of those mental blocks right now. Oh, no, the Bible says my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And perish could be a negative on many things. And when it comes to health, the lack of knowledge is not helping us. And Einstein, I'll end on this, he once said that his biggest concern or his biggest fear was the day that technology surpasses humanity. That has happened when it comes to food. Look at companies like Monsanto, okay? Food manufacturing, distribution, this whole industrial revolution has taken place and has put us in a position where most people aren't, they're just not knowledgeable. And if you're not knowledgeable, then as the saying goes, you can fall for anything. And this woman, in her own mind, believes she's doing well because the weight on the scale is better. But I know what's going to happen, and she will gain that weight back. And I'm not a pessimist. I am an optimist all the way. 100% she will gain that weight back. And I'll talk about it. I'm going to give it a year, maybe 18 months max, and I'm going to see this woman again. And this program that she's doing, because she's doing a lot of powdered stuff and microwaving, like every meal, everything is packaged. And she doesn't understand that when it's processed like that, and I'm sure the oils that are in that food are seed oils that are contributing toward inflammation, causing her fat cells hypertrophy to just expand and like just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when insulin resistance just really kicks in, that fat cell can't get any bigger, so it starts leaking fat into the body, and these cytokines that cause like all these problems. My God, it doesn't have to be that way. The scale is nice, but you want to look at other things, right? So at least measure your waist, get a body fat percentage scale, and then learn how to eat in a way where you're going to release fat and not just lose bone, muscle, and water. Thank you for your time. I'm Robert Ferguson.